See you next week.
All right. If you cannot factor, okay, and you have to solve this quadratic function, you have to find the zeros, you have to find the roots, and you can't factor, you can do this method called completing the square. What they're going to do is show you, tear that out. They're going to show you like step by step. So the first part, it's kind of like, this is just the first part. It's not, we're not going to like completely do this problem. So it says we have 4x squared plus 10 equals 46. Oops, y'all can't see that. Now, on this one, normally we have an x squared, an x, and then a number, but this one's a little bit different. I only have one variable, right? Just the x squared. So let's just, on this problem, let's just solve for x. What would I do to get this x squared by itself?
Divide by 4.
We will divide by 4, but first we're going to subtract 10. Yes. So on this first type of problem, we're just going to solve for our x. Okay, like normal, because I only have x squared. I don't have two different variables, x squared and x. So if I subtract 10, 4x squared equals, what's 46 minus 10? 36. Then what do I do? Divide by 4. So x squared equals 9. So now, yes, and I have two different answers. I have two answers. What can they be? X could equal
3 or negative.
Very good. It could be 3 or negative 3. And the way they write it is like this. Do y'all see that? They're saying, oh, it could be positive or it could be negative. If you want to write them like this, you could write it like this. Okay, that also means 3 and negative 3. Okay, but sometimes you'll see it like that. Let me do a couple more like this, just so we're used to these. We're starting out basic, and we'll get more difficult, okay? What if I have 3x squared minus 5 equals 25? What do I do on this one? Yeah, I only have the one variable, the x squared. So let's just solve for it. I would add 5. So 3x squared equals, what's 25 plus 5? 30. Then what? Yes. I thought it was warm a little bit ago.
Divide by 3.
Yep, divide by 3. Hold on. And what do I get?
10.
There we go. So x squared equals 10. All right, so how do I do this next part? Is that a perfect square? No. But it's just going to be positive or negative square root of 10. Right? Can I take the square root of 10? I mean, I'd get a decimal. All right, but I'll just leave it square root of 10. It doesn't have a perfect square, so I can't simplify it. All right, let's do another one. 7x squared minus 10 equals 25. What do I do on this one? Add 10. 7x squared equals 35. Then what? Divide by 7. X squared equals 5. Then what? Yeah, that's not a perfect square, so it's just going to be either a positive or a negative square root of 5. I can't square root 5 unless I got a decimal. Do y'all want one more of those, or are we feeling good on those?
I feel good. Let's do different.
Okay, so let me see how many. I've got 3 examples, so now we're moving on to this one. Actually, I might only have 2 examples. Okay, now we're going to solve a perfect square trinomial. All right. I think maybe next week is where we get to the hard parts of completing the square. So on this one, it's got x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 25. Okay, normally, y'all, what do I say this has to be over here? 0. But do y'all notice that this is a perfect square and the trinomial? That has a 1x squared, that has a what? 4. Those are both perfect squares. What about 25?
Yes.
It's also a perfect square. Okay, so there's a shortcut on this. This one, if I just let me just factor it. It's going to be the same thing written twice. What goes at the front? X and X. And what times what is 4? 2. And those 2's would add to 4, right? So you didn't have to write it like that. What they're going to end up writing it is like this. Okay? And I told you it's a perfect square, so notice we're going to square it. Now, what would I do from here? I have a perfect square over here, and that's a perfect square over here. Okay? So how could I rewrite this? I could just square root both sides, could I not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this I just get x plus 2, and what would I get over here?
Equals
5 or negative 5. So I have x plus 2 equals 5, but we also said it can equal negative 5. So can y'all tell me what my two answers are?
X plus 2 and
Well, x plus 2 equals 5. How would I solve for x? Subtract 2, and I get 3. What do I do on this one? Subtract 2, and I get negative 7. Those are your roots. We're doing the same thing we did yesterday. Yesterday, we graphed to find them. You could move this 25 over. You could subtract it over, get it equal to 0, and graph it. Yes. Okay, but now there's all different kinds of ways. We factored a few days ago, like normal. Now we're kind of getting into some other steps, okay? These are other ways to find roots, all right, or zeros. Let's do one more like this. I think we're pretty much, that's all the problems. We'll continue those 3 on Monday, but, on Tuesday. So what I may do is just give you like a practice sheet off of what we've done so far for Monday, okay?
You won't be here at all?
I won't be here at all on Monday. Field trip. Yeah. So, but y'all will have a sheet, okay? Y'all have something to do and turn in. Here's a problem. X squared minus 14x plus 49 equals 25. So on this one, it's a perfect square trinomial, right? Can you tell that by looking at it? Can you tell that's a perfect square? That's a perfect square. So
wait, so the middle number doesn't have to be
the middle number is actually double what you're squaring here. What am I squaring here?
7.
What's 7 times 2? So that's another way you can check. The number here would be 7. 7 times 2 is 14 every time. That's what it would be. Okay. So what are my numbers that go here? X and minus 7. That's right. Does everybody understand how in the world I got x minus 7?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me go back to the old way of doing this. I would put an x and an x. What are factors of 49? 7 and 7. But they have to add to what? Negative 14. So it's x minus 7 and x minus 7. I wrote them twice, so I put x minus 7 squared. And then I have 25 over here. Since both of those are perfect squares, what can I just do to each side? Square root them. So I get x minus 7 equals 5. And what's my other one?
X minus 7 equals negative.
Yeah, because when I square root 25, it could be a 5. Or negative 5 times negative 5 is also 25. So
your answer is 12.
I'm going to add 7 and I get 12. And I'm going to add 7 and I get 2. And y'all, if I had moved my 25 over and had it equal to 0 and I graphed it, guess what I would have gotten? The same 2 answers. Okay? So all this comes together. It all works. Let me see. We've got so much time. What's on your sheet so I can make sure I've done all the problems for it. Okay, so on number 1, it's only got the one variable, right? So we can just solve for it. On number 2, it's only got what? One variable, so what can we do? Just solve for it. Numbers down here, 5 and 6, what are these like? The second problem we did, right? That's a perfect square, right? Perfect square, perfect square, perfect square. And what do we notice about the middle number? What am I squaring here? 4, and it's double. So that's another way you know. Okay, so that's the second type of problem I did. That's the first type of problem I did. These word problems, I'll do those with you once y'all finish those other 4, okay? And we'll do those 2 together. And your stuff on Monday will just be a big review. We're going to look at number 4. She what?
You say that about everything.
Yeah, this is so important though, it really is. really is. Okay.
We're gonna use this every day.
This is an
It's
app.
a problem we're gonna
This
need
is
to
like
know.
probably more of an ACT, or we all aren't doing EOC. Anyway, it's a problem we're gonna do. Skip to number 4. I think it's a little bit easier. We're gonna start with it because it's a rectangle. What is the area of a rectangle, y'all?
Length times width.
Length times width. Well, they don't tell me the length times width. They tell me a ratio. So when you're given a ratio, you put a variable with it because it's 1.4 and 1.
Oh, this was a little.
But I put 1 point in this one. Isn't that what they said? Yeah. 1.4x and 1x. They're ratios. This length is not 1.4 and this length is not 1. I don't know the lengths, right? So I have to put what with them? A variable. Now, if I wanted to find that area, I would multiply
Length times width.
length times width. So I would say 1.4x times 1x. And what do they tell me on number 4 that my area is?
2, 4, 6, 9.
Point
Inches.
0.6. Oops, I think I put 0.5 on my
No, I
calculator.
didn't put
Okay.
inches.
Okay, inches. There we go. So, what am I going to do? 1.4x times 1x. What is that? 1.4x squared. How would you solve for x?
Okay.
Divide that by 1.4x.
Yeah, this is just like the first problem we did, right?
Five.
We just divide by 1.4.
Square root.
So, hold on. So, x squared equals, can somebody tell me that number?
2, 4, 6, 9.
I think I put
1764.
okay, 1 7. Yeah, because I think I did my decimal wrong. Anyway, let me just do this. 2469.6. I did 0.5 divided by 1.4. Oh yeah, it's exactly. Sorry, so let me redo that. 1764. There was no decimal.
I got 42.
All right. Now, to find my answer, I square root it, which normally we get a positive and a negative, right? Would it make sense to get a negative 42 for my length?
No, that would.
No, that wouldn't make sense. So it's just positive. So that's one of my lengths. X, the side that's just X right here is 42. How would I find my other side length? 1.4 times 42. And that's going to tell me what?
58.8.
58.8. That's right. So you can tell your answer. And let me put this up here in case somebody's not here today and they don't want to wait on getting their worksheet.
You're not showing them the problem.
Well, no, I'm showing them 1, 2, and 3 so they can pause it for a second and see all these problems. And then I'm going to put it up there. I'm recording. And then there's 4, 5, and 6. But this way, if they want to work it out on their own, they could pause it and see the problem. Now, that was number 4. Here it is. There's number 4. Okay, let me pause it and see about time and if we're going to do number 3.
No.
We don't have
No, no, no.
No. Because you take forever.